Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. Before we start our class, I'd like to say next week there'll be a class, Bezrat Hashem, Wednesday morning. But the following week, Sunday is a fast day, Shivasa B'Tammuz, that was pushed off to Sunday, from Shabbat to Sunday. A Monday morning, I'll be leaving to visit my mother and a bar mitzvah in New York. So I could offer maybe a night class. Like by me, it would be Wednesday afternoon in the United States. Hopefully I'll be available, and it will be Wednesday night in Israel. So privately or on the group, if you could post, and if we have a number of women for a Wednesday night class, then maybe I could do that the following week. If not, then we'll take a break for 3 weeks till after Tisha B'Av, the 3 weeks. That's how long I will be with my mother, from the day after Shivasa B'Tammuz till the day after Tisha B'Av. What time here? I assume like 8:30 here, 1:30 in America. If you want earlier, 7 here, 12 in America. That could also be, if you wanted earlier, 6 here, 11 in America. By me, it would be in the afternoon, and here would be in the evening. It doesn't have to be late evening. Okay, so let me know. Okay, that would be either Wednesday evening, Wednesday, I land there Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, I have a class that I will be giving, which is a night class here in Israel. So it would only be Wednesday. From Wednesday, Thursday, I think I'm already off to the bar mitzvah. So, okay. So that's in 2 weeks from now. Okay, so we'll continue now with ashet chil. Ashet chil, we are on pasuk samach. We did last week nun noda b'she'arim ba'ala, and we spoke about the Rebbe, the hashgacha pratis, that it talks about the husband. And so we were able to last week speak about the Rebbe's husband, about her and the Rebbe. Let me just see and close my phone if it's somebody. Okay, fine. Let me open up the ashet chil right here. Okay, so we're up to pasuk nun, samach. Okay, ladies, answer me later about the evening or the morning, because, you know what, put my phone on quiet, and then I'll be able to look at it later. Okay, we are pasuk samach, and it was funny this morning. I said, okay, let's see how the hashgacha pratit that I've been seeing every time I prepare the class, just the hashgacha pratit happens as I'm preparing, whether it's, just 1 second, please. My air conditioner just went off and I cannot sit here in the heat. I'm so sorry. 1 second, please. Okay. Sorry. Whoever's here in Israel knows that we are in terrible humidity and heat. Okay, so this morning I smiled to myself and said, oh, I wonder what the hashgacha pratit will be on today's pasuk. So I started reading. I had prepared it before, but I went to the second book that tells me who is, according to the Medrash, who is the woman that is connected to this book, to this Medrash. So first, let's learn the pasuk, and then I'll get to the hashgacha pratit, because it was also phenomenal. So we're in pasuk samach, which is right here. Sadin astal asistal vatimkor V'chagor natna laknaani, which means she makes linens and sells them, and she provides the merchants with girdles. Okay, this is not a literal translation. Sadin means, we translate it in Hebrew as linen, meaning bedcloth, bed sheets. She made and sells, and she provides the merchants with girdles, with belts. Chagor, as we see here, chagor means a chagura. She gives the belts to the Knani. The Knani were the Goyish merchants, the people that she, the non-Jewish people that she did business with. Okay, so in a way, this pasuk really belongs a little bit more to the top verses, where we spoke about what she does. We had here, Ta'amaki tov sachra. She realizes that her enterprise is profitable and how hard she works. And then it went to about her home, that her house doesn't fear from the snow. She takes care of her home, and that she dresses well. Yes. She makes her own tapestry. Her garments are of fine linen and purple. And then it talks about her husband. And then it goes back to her business. Okay. So many of the commentaries ask why that break and then back to what she does. And it's interesting the way our commentaries connect the flow of the psukim, how they see it. Why does it stop to talk about her household, her husband, and then it goes back? And they say there's a lot of wisdom here, saying what are her priorities? We hear she's so profitable, she works without an end. Is it on the cheshbon of her family and her children? So it calms us down to say, no, look, her children are well taken care of. Her husband is well known, he's not suffering. We spoke last week, we said that Pasuk Nun teaches us that her husband is well known. And we spoke a little bit about the role of the woman being more pnimiyut, more in the background. We don't need the pirsum, the advertisement, the publicity, the share, the pictures, and actually, after we learned this, I decided to take a achlata, but it's a resolution on myself, but it's a little difficult because I'm working with others, that when I go out speaking, they should just write my name and not put a picture. And I'm having problems with those that do the advertisement. It's not coming from me, it's coming from the Chabad houses that no, they need the picture to show the people who they're talking about, and my name is not enough. But I did take a hachlata. I do not want my pictures anymore on flyers and posters. Based on this, the name is enough if you need to advertise who's the speaker. And they don't need my picture. Let's see how long, if Chabad houses and shluchim will honor my new hachlata. Okay, so now it's going back to after it calms us down that all her work on the outside of the home does not affect the home, because her home is well taken care of, and so is her husband. So it goes back to the quality goods that she does and sells, and that she gives belts to the merchants. Strange phrase, a strange pasuk. So I would like to share with you, number one, it's and I'll leave the hashgacha pratit to the end, okay? Number one, let's first understand the pasuk, what it's saying. So I would like to bring some mefarshim One Mefaresh takes a very interesting stand, and he says, let me bring the source. I like bringing the source. The Akedat Yitzchak. He says a very interesting thing. He says, that after she did all this and she got dressed nicely, somebody might say, what is she working so hard? What does she do with all this material? So he says the material and everything that she does is actually for her home, because she sells it. Because it says she stays up at night, weaving with all these women that she work for her. What does she do with it? Is it a woman who has, some type of compulsive impulses that has to work and work and work, or like women who shop, or study. What does she do with it? Okay, after we learn of all the things that she does, she makes, produces. So is she just a woman that produces? Does it go anywhere? So it's telling us, yes, she sells it. She sells it. It's her parnasa, and she brings it to her house. That we should realize all that she does is for her home. Okay, that's one. But then the Alshich, which is one of the Mefarshim that I quoted, that I quote a lot. He has a parish on the Nach, Megillah Strauss and others, and he gives a very interesting thing. He says, could I read it inside? I'd like to share his words. This woman, he says, Amra beliba, this woman says in her heart, Hine asiti li sadin, shesh mehudar litatef ke'atifat sarot. I made myself beautiful garments. If you remember, we spoke about in Mem, here, Mem, Marvadim asta la shesh ve'argaman levusha. We said she was dressed in beautiful garments, her own tapestries. Her garments are of fine linen and purple. She says to herself, I also made myself a belt with precious stones on it. I am dressed like the minister's wives as a princess. And then she looks at the next pasuk, Noda basharim ba'ala b'shifto im ziknei aretz. She looks at her husband, that he's a prominent person, and he sits with the zkenim, with the elders, meaning with the chachamim, and she realizes that her husband is a talmid chacham. And I see that it is not so fitting for me to be dressed with these flashy royal garments. Lachen, even though she made all this stuff, she didn't wear it. And she decides to sell it to the merchants because she says these things are not fitting for a ashet talmid chacham. I thought it was an interesting pirush of the Alshich, that he talks about respect, that respect in the family and respect of this woman to her husband, that she realizes after she did all these beautiful material and she made herself beautiful garments, she looks and says, is this fitting for me as a ashet talmid chacham? And she decides to sell it. Okay, this is his take on this pasuk. Even and we'll learn next week that she does dress well. Oz v'hada levusha. So what does she wear? What does she wear? Okay, and that her clothes is not necessarily argaman and tolat, what we said, all these shesh, pishtan. What does she wear? We will learn next week, but it's an interesting take. And there is a book called Ashet chil that he talks on this, he discusses, brings up the discussion on this pasuk about working women and their priorities. He makes it very, very actual to today. What are our priorities? And I would like to quote some things from that book, from this book. It's called Ashet chil. And he brings their letters from the Rebbe. It's written by Lubavitcher, and he talks about women going out to work. What is how should we juggle these two things? Years ago when I was growing up, and maybe some of the women here, the world was discussing. It was when the women started joining the workforce, and fashion started being, we needed work clothes, it was leisure clothes, it was house clothes, it was evening dresses. There weren't clothes for women in the workforce. And then when the feminine movement started, the pantsuit, because the men were wearing suits, so the women's pantsuit came into fashion. And then clothing. What do we wear? In Israel, you don't have that problem. You wear what you wear to the beach, you wear to work. This is one of my pet peeves. For years, I worked in the diamond district in the jewelry business, and there were signs in the Borsa, in the diamond exchange, please dress accordingly. And you had all the foreigners in their suits, the men and the women, and the Israelis walking around in their tank tops and tights, leggings, and it was like daily we had to answer to Goyim that there is no uniform and there is no dress code in Israel. Our mayor, if you'll see him, he's also in a t-shirt and sometimes even in shorts. Like I have seen him come to a Simchas Beis HaShoeva dressed like that, and I couldn't decide if I should point out the mayor of Tel Aviv to my children because of his dress code. But so this was in the 70s, started being a new phenomenon, and now it's a given. Women are in the workforce, we have to work, or we want to work. Not going into these, into the why behind it, more of how, as religious women, how do we work this out? So I'd like to share with you some input from the Rebbe on this topic, being that this is very fitting for this pasuk that tells us that everything that this woman did, she sells it on the outside to bring benefit for her home. So there is a letter here from Yud Zayin Sivan, Tafshin Mem Beis, that the Rebbe answers a woman asking about her miktzah, her work, what she does, her profession, about her profession. So the Rebbe answers her, Yeduot stay hahoraot b'toratenu she'achat v'yichidahi. We know that there are two teachings from our Torah, which is one, that kol kvuda bat melech pnima, that the kavod of a woman is more a pnimiut, internal kavod, meaning success is not what we do out there. Success is more of an internal success for a woman. That's how we translate success. What we succeeded internally in our homes, in ourselves, in our children. So the Rebbe says, "En davar kolel kishronot levatala." On the other hand, there's nothing that Hashem did for naught. for no reason, including her talents. ותשאל רב מורה הוראה בסביבתה איך להתאים בית ההוראות גם יחד. So therefore, she should ask a Rav from her community, from her area, to how she should combine these two teachings of the Torah, that really kvuda bas melech pnima, but she has talents, how to join these two things. So I remember when I was a young married woman and the world was talking like you have to pick and choose career versus home, marriage, children. And the Rebbe was saying it could be done both. We have to take care of both. If we have talents, use it on the app. We should use our talents, but also remember our first priority is home and children. And the world was saying you can't do both. And the Rebbe said, with the right guidance, you can. And as we see here, the Rebbe is not answering her what to do. He told you need guidance for that. You have to speak to the person in your neighborhood, the Rav in your neighborhood, who knows you, who knows the job that is being asked by you, who knows your profession, who knows what your talents are and what's going on in your home, and guide you how to work them both out, okay? Because we have the pasuk that we learned before, Yadeha shilcha lakisho, she was weaving. That means that was her profession. But on the same time, we have another pasuk that says her children did not fare from the cold. She took care of them from the on what goes on the outside and also on the inside. So we have on one hand, lo bara kadosh baruch hu davar levatala. He never, Hashem did not create anything for naught. So if a woman has a great voice, if a woman has passion for medicine and taking care of others, or is good in high tech or in translating or whatever she can do, it wasn't created for nothing. It should be used, lavodat Hashem, and for parnasa. Lichvodo, meaning for the kavod of the person, for the kavod of Hashem. So the kavod of a woman is pnima, so it shouldn't touch her kavod. It shouldn't touch the kavod, the honor of her husband, her children, and of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to see it in all three levels. Okay, so every question, every woman has to check it with her Rav, her Mashpia. And we know there are many books about women in the workplace, the behaviors, the halachas to be careful about, whether it's parties, whether it's yichud, touch, flirting, eating together, drinking together, being careful. There's a lot of things that we have to be aware of. And there are good books out there also in English about religious women in the workplace. We have to see that it doesn't touch the kavod of the woman and kavod haTorah. We have to check the hours. Nowadays, women work many, many long hours. We have shifts, we have hours. I saw yesterday a job offer that I thought was good for a woman. And then I saw it says it's an evening and day and afternoon hours. So I thought, oh, that would be better for a different woman. This woman, it's not good for her to be out of the house evening and day and late afternoon. But with other women, it might work better. We have to see, and our situations also change. Homes, dynamics of our lives change a lot, and we have to be aware of that. I'd like to read to you a different answer from the Rebbe that a woman wrote to the Rebbe that she is very worn down in her, not physically, but more her mood. And she thinks it's because of she's taking care of her children. And the Rebbe answered her like this. The answer for her mood, the true answer for her is Tikra od pam haftarat yom harishon de kol hashana al godel pulat chana. The Rebbe is sending her to read again the Haftarah of Rosh Hashanah, which influences the whole year, about Chana. And if it's a Haftarah of Rosh Hashanah, it's something that we were commanded to remind all the Jews. The Ikar HaPeulata, and the main thing of her activity, Lidorei Dorot, for generations to come, is Chinuch Yiladeha, is the chinuch, the education of her children. And even though, because of this, she wasn't able to go to Shiloh, Hefech minhaga, which is contrary to her custom, Meshech Shnatayim, V'samcha al zeh, and she was happy. Let me give you the background to this, this answer. The Rebbe spoke. It was Vav Tishrei on his mother's yahrzeit. The story of Chana, that in honor of his mother, whose name was Chana, and it was also right after Rosh Hashanah. It always is. Vav Tishrei is always after Rosh Hashanah. But so he always stops on the Haftarah of Chana, and he tells us the story how Chana used to go up yearly with her husband Elkanah to the Mishkan Shiloh, which was the Beis Hamikdash of that time. It was the Mishkan, and then she gave birth after many years to a child who became Shmuel Hanavi. We know the story. And then she tells her husband the following year, he says, Chana, let's get ready to go back up Sholosh Regalim to the Beis Hamikdash. And she says, no, I'll stay home with the baby till I wean him. And some say he was 5 years old. Some say even later, some say earlier, till she finished weaning him and then brought him up to the Mishkan. She was busy with the baby. And the Rebbe says there, in the Sikha, it's Vav Tishrei Tafshin Lamed Daled. I remember I stood in 770, I heard the Sikha directly from the Rebbe. I was extremely excited with this Sikha because I had a cousin who was debating what should she do? She had a baby, leave him, come. She was going through that dilemma. And she ended up coming to the Rebbe with the baby. And here the Rebbe is saying that Chana had the possibility to go with the baby to Shiloh. Elkanah was a wealthy man. And the Rebbe said he could have taken as many servants, nursemaids, the top of the line, chariots and cars, and best hotels, Waldorf Astoria, all along the way to Shiloh, air-conditioned vans, camels, and cars, and make the way the most comfortable for mother and child, that Chana should not break her custom for going up to the Mishkan. Actually, maybe it was down, Shiloh, whatever, going up to the Mishkan. To the Mishkan, you always go up to the Mishkan with her baby. But she said, and Elkanah would have taken care of it from the beginning till the end. But on the other hand, and the Rebbe says, she could also gone up alone with him and leave the baby home. I know that the baby's taken care of, and the Rebbe used the word, with the best babysitters that you could find for those few weeks. But Chana chose to stay home. The Rebbe says 2 years. Those 2 years, and her husband understood, and accepted it, which is a beautiful thing, accepted it. And he said to her, and the pasuk quotes, let me see if I have the pasuk, Vayomer la Elkanah, and Elkanah says to her, Asi hatov be'einayich, do what's good in your eyes. Shvi ad gmalech oto, stay put till you finish nursing him. Ach yakem Hashem et dvaro, and Hashem will fulfill his words. Vateshev ha'isha, and she stayed put in her home. Vatanek et bna ad gamala oto, and she nursed him fully till she finished weaning him. So the Rebbe brings us an example of a woman who chose to stay home and be with her children. And he's answering to this woman, and the Rebbe adds, I'm going back to the letter, and he says, learn from Hannah because she was happy. You're in a bad mood. Learn to be happy with what you're doing. And I want to say from my own experience, on years of frustration that I felt I could be doing things, and the stuck feeling of, oh, I could start a project, but I might become pregnant, and then 9 months, and then a baby, and then nursing, what's going to be with me? And I remember a friend asking me to start with her a certain business. And I told her, number one, I'm on shlichus, and number two, how could you depend on me? I am like undependable. I become pregnant and I have a child, and then again, Baruch Hashem, not complaining at all. But I said, I'll see you in 22 years from now. Talk to me when I'll be in my 40s, and then maybe I'll start a career, or I'll start, I did shlichus all the years. I taught college and did everything, but in between I was nursing and cooking and taking care of my children, whatever. It's very individual. And this is going back to my frustration, I had to work, it was before mashpia time. Before the Rebbe told us to do mashpia, I will admit I had a lot of eternal work to do with myself, because I used to say, oh, I could do this. I should really do that. Travel, speak, create. I worked with jewelry and stuff like that. And then I used to get a feeling of stuck because I had to stay home with the children or take care of children or whatever. I had to get rid of that stuck feeling. It was an avodah pnimit. So I identify with the woman that wrote. I never thought of writing it to the Rebbe. And I'm so glad to see this letter that the Rebbe said, you have a big schus, and that's why I was so glad to hear that sikha, even though I heard it, I was still a girl. And I did pull it out through the time that I was working to be happy that this is what I'm doing now. And I remember years later when I was in my 40s and I went out to speak in the world a bit, somebody said, where were you the last 20 years? How come we didn't hear of you for 20 years? Or I said, well, it's actually 25 years because my youngest was already 2 or so. I said I was collecting material. I was doing my stage at home on Shalom Bayit on my husband and on Chinuch on my kids. So now I could go out in the world. I had a long stage of not 7 years of a doctor, lawyer, or whatever. It was a 20-something year stage and avodah pnimit of being happy with what I was doing. Chas v'shalom, I'm not saying not to go out to work when you have children. Nowadays, we all have to. I was, in a way, on shlichus and a little bit more privileged with my husband working and stuff like that, and help from my parents. But there were times that I did have to bring the parnasa home. So we took a break, and I did go out to work, substitute here and there, but it always had to fit in with the children and the home schedule. I did work during those 20 years for parnasa, yes, but more freelance. It's what the Rebbe is saying is, don't forget to work with the 2 horaot of our home. Our children are our priority. Kvod ha'isha, kvod habal, kvod ha'yeladim, v'kvod HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Torah. And of course, using your talents to the world. This is one point. I have one more letter. I have two more letters. Would you like to hear about that? And then we'll go to the Midrash. Okay. The Rebbe does also tell us when we do go out to work, to do it as women. See, the workforce wanted us to become men. That's what I feel, and that's what I know. Whoever's my age wanted us to become like men, aggressive. Yes, I do believe we do better work, and we should get paid. For that, I'll always fight for that. We should get equal pay or even more for the jobs that we do. But we should come across as women, not to try that whole trend that started with the pantsuits. That's what I call it, the pantsuit. It was really, why couldn't we go out as with a dress? And so the world, we're coming out as women with our feminine qualities. Why did we have to put on pantsuits to look like men to be able to go out at work, even though I am wearing a shirt, I see. Okay, it became a standard woman clothing. But I'm talking about that mindset, and it's interesting. Toshin Nun Aleph, which is not that many years ago, the Rebbe spoke about the woman working and the woman going out, because the Rebbe did push us out. The Rebbe sent us out on Miftzayim, and the Rebbe sent many women to work and to use their influence and their influence as women. The Rebbe did more than any Chareidische rabbi, Rebbe, put the women, and actually that when we were teenagers and the Rebbe was sending us out, that was one of the main fight against Chabad, that the Rebbe made the women hefker, sending them out. And the Rebbe kept pumping us that go out as the girls of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Go out, we trust you. You have all that chinuch, we trust you, and go out and use yourself as women. I'm not saying use yourself. The world shouldn't use you, meaning use your talents and your kochot. I'm not talking about like spies that use the women to catch people in as prostitutes, not that way. Use our true talents to bring back in shlichus, back souls, people, and stuff like that. So I'd like to read, it's taken from Toras Menachem. It's a letter that the Rebbe wrote, or Sicha, sorry, in Toshin Nun Aleph. And the Rebbe says, Amru Chazal, our sages tell us, Ish darko lichbosh, ve'en isha darka lichbosh. The way of a man is to conquer. And that's why his mission statement is to be in the outside world to conquer, whether it's for parnasa, whether it's to fight in wars, v'chulei. Kibush perush apashut shekofim al hanichbash bal kocho hefech ritzono al yedei hayitziya negdo b'milchama betokef v'chizuk. I'll translate. The Rebbe says, what does lichbosh, to conquer? Conquer means to take over somebody or something against their will, because otherwise you don't have to use the word conquer. Against their will, by coming out against them with strength, force, and the Rebbe says, and sometimes even with yelling and screaming in the way of war. That's the way of a man. Aval, but enzo darka shel isha. That's not the way of a woman. Ve'en darka shel isha lichbosh. A woman does not conquer in that way, in the way of a man, because kevan shekvuda bat melech pnima, because her way is more of a internal, deep way, pnimius. Often פעולתה, the way of her work, אינו בתוקף וחריפות. It's not with strength and with sharpness, אלא פנימה, עם עדינות פנימית, with a finesse and a fineness that comes from the depth. וכבודה. She does it with honor. בדרך כבוד ודרך ארץ, on the way of honor and דרך ארץ, manners, ומנוחה, in a very peaceful way. פועלת השפעה פנימית. She influences with a deeper influence of the depth of a person, eternal influence. כך שהמושפע, so the person who is receiving her influence, מקבל ברצון עצמו את ההשפעה. He receives it willingly, not like a man forces. A woman does it that the mekabel, being that we are mekabelim, we are receivers, we make that receiver also a kli, somebody who willingly receives. And the Rebbe spoke about that to shlichot, and the Rebbe spoke about that also to women in the workforce. Okay, there is a famous letter. Hi, we have a new student. A cute new student. Actually, here's a wonderful answer that the Rebbe spoke to answer to Leah Klein. I don't know if you know her, anybody knows her. Leah Klein is the wife of Rabbi Binyamin Klein, who was the Rebbe's secretary, and she was very, very involved in Beis Chana, the first school, one of the first schools named after Rebbe Tzachana, a school that was very, very dear to the Rebbe's heart, and the Rebbe even visited that school, and she was involved in that school, and then they asked her to be in charge of the dormitory, and she felt that it will complicate her running her own home because she had to be there dinner time and in the evening when the girls were in the dorm to speak to them. And she wrote to the Rebbe that she doesn't know what to do. Should she take the job, even though it will affect her children's chinuch? And the Rebbe says, there is no question that her first priority as a mother is her children and then her job. And even though Beis Chana was so close to the Rebbe's heart, he told her not to take the job as a Machon Chana, right, Simcha? Thank God Simcha's on the group and listening. Machon Chana, Yafeh. Even though Machon Chana was so dear to the Rebbe's heart, the Rebbe, and she was a wonderful person and the best person, I guess, for the job, and that was her talent, the Rebbe actually told her not to take the job because she still had little children at home. Okay, so yes, we have to work and we do it very well and we're good workers and we're competent people and we're talented people and we should use our talents. We should just get somebody to guide us, a mashpia, that we should do it in a right way, that it does not dishonor ourselves, us as women, us as frum women, our husbands, our families, and our children. Okay, the balancing. Now let's go to the Medrash. Who is this particular verse talking about? Which of the women of the Tanakh? We said I have that Medrash that tells us each verse, who's it talking about? And the Hashgacha Pratis that I had this morning. Because last night after I prepared the class, I did not look yet at the Medrash. I left it for this morning while I was drinking my coffee to check out. I was wondering to myself, who is this pasuk talking about? And I was surprised. It's talking about a woman that her name is not said clearly, directly in the pasuk, but our Mefarshim tell us it's talking about Shimshon Hagibar's mother. In English, Samson, Samson, yeah. Samson, Shimshon Hagibar's mother. And it is also a haftarah. So let me see, I have it someplace here. You cannot minimize. Ooh, if I cannot minimize, then I can't open it up. I have it, but let me see. I don't think it'll show up because I showed up the other thing. Okay, so let me go into here and look it from here. Let me go see if it'll open up for me. And, it's Shoftim, I think it's Perek 13. Let's see if my memory works. Okay, so we all know the story of Shimshon. It's the Haftorah when we read about, do you people see the screen? Could somebody unmute and tell me or nod their head, but you're all closed. So.
Yes, we see the
Okay.
screen.
Yeah, fair. Okay, thank you. So here we have the story of Shimshon, not actually his life story. We have the story of how he was conceived and brought to be. So we have here the story of his mother, his parents. It doesn't say the mother's name, but her name was Halifonis. Halifonis was her name, not a very popular name, but we do see a certain greatness in her. And we see why she merited to be Shimshon's mother. I'll just tell you the Hashgacha Pratis first. I sat down to read it, and I was sitting here, I prepared it here in my kitchen. Like I said, I was drinking my coffee, and I opened it up, and it says that this pasuk has to do with, is connected to Shimshon's mother. And I left this door right here, open, and my husband's in the dining room, and I heard him on the phone. My husband does have a loud, booming voice, and I heard him say, Shalom Shimshon Hagibar, Shalomcha. And I said, what? Then I remembered that the guy who is fixing up his office, his name is Shimshon, and my husband was just checking up if he's showing up. So this was my husband's morning greeting to him. Shalom Shimshon Hagibar, ma shlomcha. And I said, okay. This is like Hashem always finds a way to connect the verse to something that this time it was to my private life, to my husband's life, that he is meeting somebody that he likes to call him Shimshon. Well, the guy's name is Shimshi. Okay, now going back to the story. Okay, so we have here the story that there was a man from Zerah, that he was from the Shevet Dan, and his name, it says, his name was Manoach, and his wife was barren, and she had no children. And then she was out in the field, and an angel appeared. Okay, we know it's an angel. The pasuk tells us it's an angel, but and he speaks to her, and he says, "You are barren and have not borne, and you shall conceive and bear a child. But beware." And he tells her to start taking upon herself, before she conceives even, not to drink wine and not to eat anything that is tameh. Don't eat anything that is tameh. Because you shall conceive and bear a son, and he will be a Nazir for Hashem. Okay? And he will be a Nazir from the day he was born, which is a whole thing that we have to discuss, but not today. We had with Chana and with Shmuel, it's interesting. Chana, Shmuel's mother that we spoke about before, and here Shimshon's mother, they both take upon for their children to be a Nazir. And actually, a Nazir has to choose it. And here, these are two special women that took upon themselves. Here, this woman, Heliphonis, takes it on because the Malach tells her, and Hannah is the one that takes it upon herself, that her son will be given over as a Nazir to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so this is a common denominator. Now, look how this woman talks to her husband. Okay, and he tells him he will save Israel from the hand of the Plishtim. The Jews were under terrible influence and suffering very much in the hands of the Plishtim. Okay, and he says, and she runs to her husband. Remember, she saw it. She saw this angel. And look how she talks to her husband. A man of God came to me, and his appearance was of an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him from where he was, and his name he did not tell me. And she gives over what he said to her. You will conceive, bear a son. She is very respectful here to her husband. There's no, he told me, he spoke to me, he didn't speak to you. The Chachamims really elaborate on the way she gives over the message to her husband, and also the way she talks to the angel. She doesn't argue with him, she just listens, and she goes back to the husband, gives him the message without, elaborating too much. So Manoach did accept it, and he says to Hashem, let him come to me, to us. Now he wants to be part of the picture and teach us what we shall do to the lad that will be born. Meaning he went straight into the believing stage of his wife, accepting what his wife said, and didn't say, what, God will appear to you in the field? Who are you? He didn't appear to me. I mean, if he wants our son to be so great, he should really be talking to me. It's also the acceptance of Manoach that his wife was capable of seeing and meeting an angel of God. So that's why it says that Hashem listened to Manoach, bringing up Manoach, that we shouldn't think that Manoach was in a lower, also not capable, but he was, and Hashem listened to Manoach, but the angel came back to the woman again, and her husband was not with her. Look how the Torah is giving us the picture. Hashem turns to her and not to her husband. And what does she do? She stops the angel and she runs to get her husband. And she says, appear to me again. And he comes and runs with his wife and he meets the angels. The angel says, are you the man that spoke to the woman? And he says, I am. And then he speaks to both of them. Okay? So this is one lesson. I think last time we learned something else, but this is one lesson that I wanted to speak here about. The way, the interaction of the man giving room for his wife and how she includes her husband, but how, on the other hand, the angel turned to her. The behavior of before conceiving and during the pregnancy, how she should behave. Shimshon's, who he was because of the way his mother behaved before pregnancy and during pregnancy. But now let's see what is the connection to the pasuk. The pasuk that we were talking about was Sadin Astala. Let me go back to ashet chil. Do you remember? She made herself Sadin bedcloths, but she ended up selling it. And a chagar and a belt she gave to the merchants. So some of the Mefarshim say that she was saying that what we said before, she sold the goods that she made, and even from the leftovers. The belt is made usually from leftovers, scraps of the material. That even the scraps, she made things out of it, belts. I thought today in the morning to talk about, the accessories that we have, the little belts and tassels and stuff, talk about accessories, jewelries and accessories, but I'm putting that aside. And really, I like to mention what the Mefarshim say, that even in the scraps of things, she makes useful things. She doesn't throw out. She's frugal. She's not wasteful. And she uses it to give out as gifts and also to sell it to others. We only have a few minutes left. I'm debating if I should continue. I'll continue with Shimshon, but maybe not from inside. Let's see, maybe I'll go to chapter 14, where it tells the story of, he gets married and he promises, he gets married to a Philistine lady, and he promises them here that if they solve a riddle, if you cannot tell me, then you shall give me 30 linen sheets and 30 suits of clothing. And they said to him, ask your riddle that we may hear it. Okay, and we all know the story that they couldn't solve the riddle, and they persuaded Shimshon's wife, and he tells them, they threatened her that they will burn her house and the father's house if she doesn't get the answer. So she gets the answer and she tells them. So Shimshon ended up having to give them clothing for because they solved the riddle. And it says that how did he get the clothing? He killed people, took their clothing, and gave the suits to those who told the riddle. But his anger was kindled, and he went to his father's house. Okay, so what do the Chachamim tell us? And how do they connect it? The Medrash connected to this verse that we're learning. That when Shimshon told his mother the story, that he put forth a riddle for the people of Plishtim, and that if they do solve the problem of the riddle, he will have to give them 30 sets of sheets and 30 sets of sheets of linen and 30 sets of clothing. She right away went and started preparing the clothing. She feared that the wife will she knew exactly what was going to happen. That did happen. That the wife will solve the riddle and or get it out of Shimshon and tell it to her nation. She was from the Plishtim, and Shimshon will not have how to pay them the clothing and give them the sheets. So she started making the sheets and the suits. That's Sadin Asta Lavatimkor. She made all these dinim for Shimshon. And then he ended up taking care of himself. You know how mothers want to take care of the children, and then the child comes and says, oh, Ma, I took care of it. And we're stuck with the food that we made for them or the sandwiches that we made for them in the morning, and say, oh, I don't need, I'm going to buy in the cafeteria. And all the things that we do, and we're stuck later with them, or we're left with them because our kids, we forgot that they could take care of themselves. This started in the times of Shimshon's mother. She prepared all the suits for him in case he has to give it to the Plishtim. And then he took care of himself. He just went, he was the Gibor, and killed 30 Plishtim and took from them and gave it to them. So she was stuck with all these suits and material. So she sold it, and she was able to support her family, her husband, and was able to give Shimshon also money. And also the Chagor, she gave him that strength, belt is to girdle. It's a symbol of strength that comes from our hips, core, what they call now the core muscles, our strength muscles. She was his strength. See, it tells us that in the pasuk. He finished with them and he went back home to get strength from his parents to deal with the Plishtim. He knew he had to save Am Yisrael. It's one of the reasons he married this woman. He wanted to be accepted and from there come and help Am Yisrael. And actually the Medrash tells us that his Yetzer Hara, I want to quote that. Unknown to Shimshon, his own Yetzer Hara was pushing him to go after his eyes under the guise of doing the great mitzvah of protecting the Jewish people. He at the end lost it because his Yetzer Hara got dressed as saying, do this, do that, it'll help the Jewish people, it'll help the Jewish people, and it didn't. Because it was the guidance he was getting was not from his parents at that time anymore, but was from his Yetzer Hara. And this goes back to the beginning of the lesson, that when we do go out to the world, we shouldn't forget that our focus is kavod of the Torah, kavod of our family, kavod of ourselves, and we should be guided with a mashpia and with the Yetzer Tov. Shimshon, if he would have continued with his mother's guidance, it wouldn't have happened what happened, because his mother, we see from this verse, was so protective. She went and prepared everything and sold belts and even little things to be able to help her son. But at the end, the Yetzer Hara, which is another thing, we have to let our children do their own journey, their own Yetzer Hara, give them the strength to deal with it, but it's actually their journey and their milchama in this world, and we just have to pray that they succeed. Okay, that's the end of today's class, and B'ezrat Hashem next week, and I will look on my chat later to see what was decided about in 2 weeks, if you could have an evening class, if you want it 6, 7, 8, or 9 o'clock, and I will be able to check maybe my schedule of in 2 weeks Wednesday, where I'll be if, in the United States, if I'll have internet to be able to continue the class. But we still will be meeting next week, B'ezrat Hashem. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, Haley.